on our and being active in how we counter misinformation and disinformation, making sure that we're not only being responsible in what we share and what we consume, but also in what our society, our community, our friends, our family are reading and believing and hearing, is a really important thing to make sure that we're being responsible, that we have peaceful communities, and that we're informed with correct information, especially in the lead up to an election event. So to do a little icebreaker, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Danielle, who's also here from IFAS today. So over to you, Danielle.
Thank you, Meredith. Good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle Anthony, and I am the Senior Program Officer at IFAS Guyana. I just wanted to welcome you all. I know that you've taken some time off of your busy schedules to join us and be here. I'm so thankful for that. All right, so we want to get to know everyone on the call. So I'm going to ask you, each of you, to unmute, or you can use the reaction tool if it's available on your device in order to indicate what order you would like to proceed. Could you all just introduce yourself and just give me one expectation or outcome of this workshop? Just something you'd like to know, how you'd like to feel at the end of the workshop, or what outcome you'd like to see. And also tell me a bit about yourself. So 3 things, sorry. What is your name? An outcome or one expectation that you have of this workshop. And then thirdly, a bit about yourself. So I'm going to get the ball rolling. I would have introduced myself just now. My name is Danielle Anthony. A bit about myself. I am from Georgetown, and I would have lived in Georgetown most of my life. I briefly lived in Trinidad and Tobago. And one expectation of this workshop is that you all come out with an understanding and an appreciation of how you can combat disinformation and how you can identify the various types of information disorder in order to proceed with this combating disinformation campaign that will be ongoing. Anyone would like to go first, or should I start calling names based on how you've identified yourself?
I'll go next, Danielle, and then pass it over to the GCOPD persons, and then we could get to our volunteers so that they could work up the courage or at least have a few minutes to wake up. All right.
We do have one volunteer. So after you, before he loses his courage, we can take Trevor Goldberg next.
Good. All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Rosemary Ramit. And for those of you who don't know, I'm low vision and I work in disability advocacy with GCOPD. My expectation is that we will have a successful workshop and that you guys will be armed with the necessary knowledge and information to be able to go out there and do what is required of you. And that at the end of this, we'll have a great team of persons who will be helping us to combat disinformation relating to the local government elections. All right, so over to you, Trevor.
Hi guys, morning. My name is Trevor Gobin. I currently live on the east bank of the Morara. And one expectation of the program would be me expecting that we can efficiently work as a team to do what is required of us on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Francine, I see you have your indication, your raised hand up.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Francine Raylene. A bit about myself. I am from a Shelton village that's in Region 9. I am a registered nurse, and one expectation is that I hope that I will get the knowledge that I can go about to help or to learn more on this training that we have now. Thank you.
Thank you, Francine. Sita, you're up next.
Good morning once again. Well, my name is Sita Dalu. I am from Blairmont, which is a community in Region 5. My expectation is to basically gain new information and have a better understanding of the roles and responsibility that comes with this task.
Thank you, Sita. Ganesh, would you like to go? No one else has their indication up.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ganesh Singh. Sorry. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ganesh Singh, and I'm the program manager at the Guyana Council of Organizations for Persons with Disabilities, better known as GCOPD. And my expectation is for us all to acquire the necessary or required knowledge to execute this project efficiently, so that we can combat mis and disinformation that might be out there in relation to the local government elections. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Ganesh. We have Narifa on the call. Narifa, would you like to introduce yourself? I also see a Dominic Richmond. Dominic, would you like to go?
Yes, good morning. My name is Dominic Richmond. I'm from Linden. I'm a teacher also. My expectation is to gather all knowledge about this program, so complete any required tasks efficiently.
Thank you, Dominic. Malika Singh, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Malika Singh. I am from Essequibo. I'm a teacher also. And my expectation of this meeting is to acquire, for all participants to acquire the necessary knowledge to complete tasks efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Malika. Devendra?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Devendra Bertrand. I'm from the West Bank, and I'm here to see how we can compare this information in Guyana and also gain some knowledge about this situation.
Thank you, Devendra. Parmeshwar?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Parmeshwar Harilal. I'm from the west coast of Demerara. I'm a teacher as well, and my expectation of this course meeting project is that we all would acquire knowledge to get through this program as efficiently as possible, and we could probably keep contact as our future goes on in case we need information otherwise.
Thank you, Parmeshwar. Leonard?
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Lennox Fredericks from Bartico. I'm expecting in this meeting to gain as much more knowledge as possible and let it be a fun experience.
Thank you, Lennox. Is there anyone that wants to volunteer to go? I see Nelicia Bikari.
Good day, everyone. My name is Melissa Carey. I'm from Linden, but I'm currently living in Georgetown. At the end of this program, I would like to promote with an understanding of the whole idea and ideas it stands for.
Thank you, Nelicia. Angelita?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angelita Paliandi. I am from New Amsterdam, which is in Region 6. And one expectation of this program for me is that we can all gather the necessary information so that we can combat this information not only for this upcoming elections, but for also for future projects.
Thank you, Angelita. I just see Lana and Narifa on the call. If either of you want to go and introduce yourself.
I'll go. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Alana Ramit, and I'm a program assistant at GCOPD. I'm currently a student at the University of Guyana, and my expectation for this workshop is for all the volunteers at the end of the workshop to be able to identify disinformation and how they can go forward in combating disinformation.
All right, thank you. I think we've gotten everyone or most of the persons on the call. I would just again like to thank you all. I think we all as a collective have the same goals or expectations for this workshop, and hopefully by the end of it, we will achieve that outcome. I'm just going to pass on the baton back to Rosemary, who will do an overview of the project.
All right, thank you so much, Danielle, and thank you also to our volunteers. For this section where we'll give you an overview of the project, let you know what the project is about, what are the organizations involved in this project, and some of the things that you'll be doing as we move forward. I'll ask Ganesh, who is the program manager, to talk to you about that. Ganesh?
Thank you very much, Rosemary. Good morning again, everyone. As Rosemary, Daniel, and Meredith would have said, we're here to acquire the necessary knowledge and skills to combat mis and disinformation that might be out there on the various social media platforms as it relates to local government elections. So this project is a smaller one within the broader Utilize project that is being funded by US aid, as Meredith would have said, and being spearheaded by International Foundation for Electoral Systems with 3 partners. You have the Ghana Council of Organizations for Persons with Disabilities, the Ghana National Youth Council, and Youth Challenge Guyana. Some of the volunteers here are from those organizations too. So this aspect of the project, we know that during elections and even during so-called normal times, there are cases of information that is not accurate being disseminated across social media platforms. And this can have serious consequences, as we would have seen in the past. We all familiar with examples where information that is not accurate would have been disseminated and it caused significant damages, caused lives, and so forth. So our task under this project, our role, is to ensure that we are able to identify the instances of mis and disinformation, and then we develop strategies to combat that. So as Trevor would have said, that we all will be working as a team, and through this project, or sorry, this workshop here today, and continuous learning, you will be able to get the necessary tools to identify information that is not accurate, especially as it relates to the voting process, what local government elections is all about, who can vote, things like that, as general information relating to local government elections. And once we identify that, using the different tools and methods that you would learn, we then develop strategies or pieces of, strategies more so, to combat that misinformation that will be out there. And we try to get as much traction as we can to ensure that our message is also out there, because we know information that is not accurate, information that is sensationalized, tends to get the attention that it doesn't deserve. So we gotta try to ensure the information that we put out, the accurate pieces of information, get the same traction. So it sounds like a Herculean task, but I am quite sure, working as a team with support from IFES, we will be able to ensure that the people out there, the members of the public, especially young people, get accurate information as it relates to local government elections. We are currently, all the partners with IFES, doing the voter education campaign all across Guyana, ensuring all Guyanese can learn about the local government electoral process and what local government elections is all about and how to go about voting. And this is just one way of us adding to what we're doing through that voter education campaign. So it'll be almost the similar information that we're putting out there to combat instances of misinformation that we identify. So I hope I did some justice to the overview, Rosemary. Back to you. And thanks, guys. Rosemary?
All right. Yes, I was having trouble unmuting. Yes, thank you so much, Ganesh. Good. So we have been talking a lot about disinformation and misinformation and false information, things like that. So our next presenter, Danielle, will walk us through what these words actually mean. What are these terms and how do we identify them? So Danielle, over to you.
Thank you, Rosemary. So I am going to share my screen and I have prepared a presentation, a PowerPoint. I will go through each of the slides, but I will also ask for your input as we go on. So I expect it to be an interactive discussion. At the end of this presentation, I am going to place you all into breakout rooms so that we can do a group activity. All right. So in this session, we will be discussing the types of information disorder. And there are three types of information disorder to be exact, and that is misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. You're probably wondering what information disorder is. It is information that seeks to actually influence your beliefs. So it is also called manipulative content, and this type of information can either be found in traditional media like the radio or the newspapers or even on the TV, or it could be found on social media like TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and all the other social media platforms that we've come to know and love. So the first one that I want to go ahead and discuss with you is misinformation. So misinformation is false or misleading information that is spread without the intent to mislead or without the intent to cause harm. You may be sharing something as simple as a forwarded message that comes to your phone, believing that to be true. But in doing so, you are misinforming the next person that you share that message with. And this misinformation can be something as simple as a mistake in a news article or a rumor or gossip. But because you believe it to be true, that is the misinformation. And it is not intended to cause harm. For an example of misinformation, was during the pandemic, it was believed that hot pepper in your food could prevent or even cure COVID-19. So what the World Health Organization would have done in order to combat that misinformation, because obviously with that type of information going around, persons were using hot peppers, believing that misinformation, they would have published the note on the slide, which reads, the best way to protect yourself against the new coronavirus is to keep at least 1 meter away from others and to wash your hands frequently and thoroughly. So they would have produced a fact sheet in order to combat that misinformation. Adding pepper to your soup or other meals does not prevent or cure COVID-19. Let's move on to the next example or the next type of information disorder. So that is called disinformation. Disinformation is also false information, but it is deliberately designed to harm a person, a social group, an organization, or country, or just to have fun. So, disinformation is false or misleading information that is created with the intent to cause harm or to benefit the perpetrator. The person has somewhat malicious intent and is just doing this for fun. When people spread misinformation, they often believe in what they're spreading. This information, on the other hand, is created and spread in order to intentionally mislead others. This information can become misinformation. It all depends on who shares it and why. For example, if a politician strategically spreads false information in the form of producing an article or even putting up a Facebook comment or status on their private page or even a public page, this is disinformation. However, if one of their followers or if someone sees that disinformation and then believes it and shares it with another person without realizing that that information is false, then it becomes misinformation. A lot of the disinformation that we see on social media, especially, and even in traditional media, is based on half truth, where lies are often mixed up with some amount of truthful information. And that is where you tend to more so believe the information that is being produced to you. And even more so, you believe that information because of the person that started the post or created this disinformation. You wouldn't want to say, or you wouldn't believe that a public figure would want to create this harmony. So you would tend to believe what they're actually saying. Again, the intention with this bit or this type of manipulative content is to create or to cause harm. And the final or the third type of information disorder is called malinformation. Now, malinformation happens to be accurate information that is caused, that is shared with the intent to cause harm. So malinformation is the truth, but the intention behind sharing something like that is to cause harm to another person or to an organization. So malinformation can be in the form of leaked personal information, like someone with a malicious intent decides to share your personal pictures that you would have sent to them. Those were true pictures, those are true reflections of who you are, or you may have sent that in a private setting, and they would have resent that to somebody else. I'm sure a lot of you would have heard of the term revenge porn. Or even to leak your personal information. Someone would have leaked or let the public know of where you're living, your address, or something to that effect. That is called malinformation. And the purpose of sharing this information is to significantly damage the reputation of another person or an organization. Now on screen, we have a table of how we can identify the three types of information disorder and how we categorize them essentially. So we usually categorize them based on whether they're true or false and whether they intend to harm another person or an organization. So as you can see, misinformation and disinformation falls under the false category, but disinformation and malinformation also falls on the intent to harm. So in this pictorial illustration, we have misinformation, and we have some examples here. So it's an unintentional mistake, such as inaccurate photo captions, dates, statistics, translations, or when satire is taken seriously. Satire means when a joke is taken seriously, and spreading false information that you think is true. Disinformation, on the other hand, could be fabricated or deliberately manipulated. It could be truthful or half truth, rather. So it's a deliberate manipulation of that information, whether it's audio or visual content or even words, to intentionally create conspiracy theories or rumors. So it does have the element of intending to harm another person. Malinformation as well has the intention to harm another person or organization so that you destroy the reputation of that person. So it's a deliberate abuse of private information with the intent to harm or intimidate that person, sharing someone's personal emails online. While this is not false information, it is distributed with a bad intent. So I want you to also consider this definition as well: dangerous speech. Dangerous or hate speech is understood as any kind of communication that attacks a person or a group on the basis of who they are, based on their religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or other identity factor. And this definition or language was borrowed from the UN Strategy and Plan of Action on Hate Speech. And I want to show you an example or describe to you an example of what this type of information can do. So dangerous speech or disinformation has often led to violence, or can often lead to violence. In Sri Lanka, there was violence against the Muslim communities. And in America, in Canada, there was a protest against anti-Asian hate crimes. So in Canada and in America, just during the pandemic and thereafter, because it was believed that the coronavirus, or this is factual, the coronavirus did originate from China, or did start coming from China. So they blamed every Asian person throughout the world. And so there was so much abuse and violence against Asians, specifically in the Western world, in Canada, as well as in the United States of America. So there were protests against it: stop making them a scapegoat. The imagery to racism is the real pandemic. Hate is the epitome of our destruction, etc., etc. So this is how, if you're not careful with the information that is shared on traditional social media, this is the result of it: widespread violence or attacks against a specific group, or even if there is hate speech or dangerous speech being perpetrated against a specific group, minority group, anyone can be the recipient of hate speech, regardless of their race or their gender. But the fact that this is continuously shared, and it can oftentimes lead to violence. So what I want you all to do as a group, I'm going to now put you into breakout rooms, and I'm going to assign each group with one of the three information disorder types. And I want you to give an example, something close to home, something you would have either observed or seen on social media, or heard or seen on traditional media. And I want you to give us an example when you come back to the larger group of that occurrence. So group one will do misinformation, group two will do disinformation, and group three will do malinformation. If anyone has a question before we go into the breakout rooms, or if anyone wants me to go through the differences, let me know now.
Hi, good morning. Shonda Marshall here.
Hi, dear.
Just before I just came in, just can you briefly just go back to definition in simple terms for me? Quickly?
Sure,
I
no
missed that.
problem. So there are three types of the information disorder, and this information disorder is content that you would see either in traditional or social media that intends with the intention to manipulate you or your beliefs. So there is misinformation, which is information that could be purely a mistake or it's inaccurate information. There is disinformation, which is fabricated or deliberately manipulated information that intends to harm. Misinformation is just false information. There's no intention to harm, but you can actually share this information, and because you believe the disinformation to be true, that becomes misinformation. And then the third one is malinformation, where the information that you receive or the information that you see happens to be true, but it was shared with the intention to harm or intimidate a person or an organization. So this could be sharing someone's email or leaking their private photos or their private addresses, just and distributing with the intention, with a bad intent behind it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm going to create the three breakout rooms. If you end up in the first breakout room, you are going to provide an example of what is misinformation, what you've either observed or seen on social or traditional media, something close to home, something that the entire group can agree upon. And when you come back to the larger group, I want you to share that example. The second one, disinformation. The second group will deal with disinformation, and the third group will deal with malinformation. So you've all been invited to join the groups. King Richmond, you are in room 3. If there is a notification on your screen that asks you to join the group, could you please join that group? Rosemary, do you know who King Richmond is? The person is not responding.
Yes, Dominic, are you hearing us? That's Dominic.
He was signed in as Dominic Richmond earlier when I was doing the icebreaker. I'm not sure if this device is also still connected, because we lost that other device that he was signed in as Dominic Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the person, he came offline.
Okay, he's probably having. Yeah.
All right, I see he's back in again.
Okay, teacher, add me back to the group. Was at the loading screen so long.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so I'm going to close the groups now and have them come back into the forum. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I hope that your discussions in the group was fruitful and that you would have delegated someone to at least present the examples or a bit about what you spoke about in those breakout rooms. So I'm actually going to call on group 1 to present their example first to the larger group. So someone from group 1.
Yes, so I would be presenting the information I was shared within group 1. So we came up with 2 examples. The first being, they're both relevant to Guyana and also to elections. So the first one was misinformation that is shared within Region 9, where a specific Amerindian community, I guess the information that's shared is that the Amerindian community votes for PPP, or all of the Amerindian community, everyone within the community votes for PPP. That information is shared via social media, Facebook, and it's also spread verbally among persons living within the region, even outside of the region. And the other example that we came up with was a very common misinformation being shared where only Indians support PPP, and then you have only Africans support APNU. That's a very common misinformation that is always shared, is always seen on social media and also shared verbally.
Thank you, Sita, for that. And while I have you on the spot, could you say how any of the 3 examples, because I think you mentioned 3 different groups, how would that misinformation become dangerous or harmful information? Because you mentioned 3 specific groups or ethnic groups. How can that misinformation become harmful, especially around election?
I think we have seen in the past election just how dangerous such misinformation can be. And I would say that violence is one of the main consequence of spreading such misinformation, because it creates tension between different groups of people, and it can lead to violence ultimately.
Great. So the information that you referenced just now could have started off as misinformation. Eventually, it could have attracted a different intention, which it would have been an intent to harm. And then it could have led to dangerous or hateful speech because it is against specific groups. Thank you, Group 1, for sharing your examples. Group 2, your task was to share an example or examples of disinformation.
Yes. So the 2 that we came up with 2 examples. The first one, it deals with leaked videos, and this was a deliberate act by persons within society. The first one I would share is with influencer Visit Guyana, Stacey Rahman, with her conversation with businessman Azardine. So the 2 of them were having a normal conversation, and while the businessman would have leaked the conversation between them, and the video would have ended up in the wrong hands, and that was leaked to social media. It was on all platforms, and that would have attracted Stacey's person who disliked her, and that would have affected her like I'd say mentally, because she did release some videos and comments towards that. And another one is...
Wait, Chanda, before you go on, let's look at that example.
Yes.
So the example that you reference is an event that occurred between a social media influencer and a businessman in Ghana. So
Correct.
that incident or that interaction did occur. So the video is a true portrayal of an incident or an interaction between those 2 persons.
Yes, it was an audio, actually, not a video.
Okay,
but
sorry,
audio.
an audio. So that would be not disinformation, that would be malinformation, because the information there is true, but the fact that it was leaked are distributed to lower the reputation or the standing of the influencer before anyone else or in the public's eye means that the intention was to harm or that it was distributed with a bad intent. So that example is actually malinformation.
Okay. The second example that we came up with. What happened?
I don't think it should be a second example, I did third.
Oh, sorry, the Zoom came on, so I was looking for it. So the second example that I was talking about is the leaked videos with the secondary school student.
No, that has to be mine.
Okay.
We're happy to hear all of the examples so that we can, as a collective, be able to identify the different types. So please share all your examples that you discussed.
Yeah, so the second one that we discussed was with the secondary school, where two secondary school students from two different types of secondary, they would have committed a sexual act, and that was leaked. But yeah, that would come as mal.
So
and it was released to social media as well.
So revenge porn as well as malinformation, leaking of persons' intimate moments would fall under malinformation. These acts were committed, they're truthful. It's unfortunate that they're being released or shared, but yes, they would also be malinformation. Would you like to share your third example?
No, it was just two.
It was just a two. Okay. Would anyone else from the other groups like to give an example if they can think of this information now that we have gone back over the definition? And I can go through again. So disinformation is false information or information that has some amount of truth to it, but it's essentially false or it's manipulated in such a way that the intention of it is to create conspiracy or rumors or gossip. So anyone just take a moment and just like, yes, Parmeshwar, you want to give an example?
Hi, good morning. So I think a typical example of disinformation would, I think we all know about this, the Amber Heard case against Johnny Depp, where she would have spread certain rumors that were false and some were true against him in order for him to lose some of his work connections and such.
Yes, that is correct. And that disinformation example, like Parmeshwar would have said, would have fallen under the intent to harm category because her intention there was for his celebrity status and the way that people saw him as an actor or a public figure to be diminished. Anybody else would like to give an example of this information? Allow me to give an example of this information, and I think this would have come to the attention of everyone in the group. What about the false maps that were created? Well, we don't know who created them, but they were created showing that a significant part of Guyana belonged to Venezuela. And that was widely shared and distributed on most social media platforms, to my understanding, more so Facebook and Instagram. Yes, so that would be an example of disinformation. All right, so let us move on to group 3, who would have been asked to present on or give examples of malinformation.
Yes, hi, I'm from group 3 and we had to deal with malinformation. So like Another group mentioned a bit of our scenario already, but you're correct. They fall under malinformation. It was about this high school couple. They were having sex in the toilet, and apparently the boy had another girlfriend, and she caught them and videoed it. After that, she posted it on social media with the couple having sex there. So that scenario there, we believe that to fall under the malinformation.
Correct. Do you have another example? Was that the only one that you
No,
discussed?
we just come up with one.
Okay, no problem. All
Yeah,
right,
thank
so
you.
let us look at this from the perspective of we're entering into local government elections. What is the type of information, either this or malinformation, that you would have seen or that you could have seen? It could be hypothetical, and even if we're entering into what we have seen, let us not use specific parties during the discussion. So we can say party A or party B would have shared or would have leaked specific audio footage or video footage of a public figure doing something that was contrary to what that party stood by. So let me give a more detailed example of malinformation. A public figure is abusing his wife, and video footage of that incident gets out and is actually leaked by the opposing party. What type of information disorder do you think that is?
Malinformation.
Yes, malinformation. Let me give another example. So a reporter is capturing a news article or does an interview where it states that this political party only supports or only wants the support of certain ethnic groups. But in fact, the person who was being interviewed, the public figure that was being interviewed, said that I would like the support of all ethnic groups. What type of information do you think that is? Or could be?
That would be disinformation.
So it could either be, yeah, sorry, Malika.
I was about to say disinformation too.
Disinformation. So if it was the journalist's intention to harm the reputation of that person that they interviewed, that political figure, then it would have been disinformation. If it was like a simple mistake, maybe they didn't note that information correctly, then it would have been misinformation.
Homie, you got more than the snacks? You got more than the snacks?
Lennox, you're
Yeah.
unmuted. Let me mute you. All right. So do you guys feel comfortable now being able to identify the various types of information disorder? Or would you like us to go through some more examples so you know where each stands? Either raise of reaction or you can unmute and say you feel comfortable. Just let me know before we move on. So out of the group, only one person is comfortable. Okay, 2, 3. Don't be shy. If there's anything you need me to clarify, Angelita is comfortable. Okay. You can also utilize the chat feature and you can message me privately if you need me to clarify any of the types or provide you with another hypothetical example or even an actual example so that you understand, because intention of this entire workshop is for you to be able to identify this type of information so that you can accurately report on it. All right. But that brings me to the end of my session. Thank you all for being so attentive. I am just going to hand over to Rosemary, unless there's any questions that you'd like to ask of me. All right, Rosemary, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Danielle. And I really do hope that, you found this session useful. And according to the presentations that you guys did, I know that you are definitely thinking about what kinds of information are disinformation, malinformation, things like that. So if you look at the agenda, the next item on the agenda is looking at actors, such as, people who post things, the types of messages that come out, and people's motivation for posting certain kinds of mis and disinformation. So that is what we're going to look at right now. So just give me a minute. Let me share my screen. All right, just give me a minute. Let me see. Good. So understanding the motives behind incorrect information. So let me ask you, what are some of the reasons why you think people or sources post incorrect information? Anybody could unmute and answer and respond.
Depending on the type of information that they would have been sharing, it could be either for fame or to cause harm to someone else.
All right, so to cause harm, somebody said, because it's what they believe to be true. What other reasons? You could type it in the chat if you don't want to unmute.
How about to make themselves look better?
All right. All right, good. So keep thinking about that, right? To discredit or tarnish someone else's reputation. Good. So as it says here, how and why do sources get information correct? Belief in wrong information, which is what somebody else mentioned, right? You genuinely believe that this information is true, and so you share it. And this would be categorized as misinformation, right? Because you're sharing it not with the intention of causing harm, but the fact remains is that this is not information that is true. Poor journalism. So journalists not doing their work, not doing fact checking to ensure that the information that they're receiving is true. They're just, hurrying to post something so that they could get all the views and they could be the one to break the story. So they often get certain information wrong. incorrect beliefs, we have practical jokes. We know as Guyanese, we have a saying, Guyanese can't take nothing serious, right? And so people would take serious matters and make jokes. But the problem with that is that other persons who interpret that message may believe that that is true, not realizing that it might be sarcasm or it might be a satirical piece. You have things like making memes, which we know Guyanese people love to do. False claims about products. You have things like scams, prejudice, right? So this is where there is harmful beliefs about a group of people and posts are being made about that. We have propaganda and hate speech. So we have inauthentic actors. So when we look at who are the people posting these things, we have inauthentic actors. These are people whose job, so these are either individuals or they come from groups or they might have organizations, things like that. And their main goal is to share misleading information, right? Now, what we have to be careful of is sometimes the information might be true, but it is presented in a way that creates or that conveys a different interpretation, right? So people are always using certain kinds of language. And what you will find happening is that whoever is reading or whoever is receiving this message isn't looking beyond, you know, the language that is used. They are just running away with, maybe they read the first headline and they misinterpret the entire thing. So when we look at believing incorrect information, and again, this is why people would share incorrect information because of the belief, right? And Daniel talked at length about misinformation. And these are things like believing conspiracy theories, you know, oh, the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine is going to kill you. They're putting microchips into your arm. If you put a spoon or a metal object at the place of vaccination, at the site of vaccination, you know, it's going to stick because there's a magnet in there. And Daniel talked about this, the herbal, you know, remedies that can cure certain diseases and so on. So poor journalism, you might see this in cases where they get data or the spelling of someone's name wrong. Assuming that something is correct when it's not. Failing to get both sides of a story. Can you guys think of any instances, or have you ever come across where you have information being put out by several media houses, but then there's always conflicting information? Like one media house is going to say, this is what happened. The other media house is going to say, this is what happened. Have you guys ever experienced or came across anything like that?
Yes. Different they would produce different numbers. Some, for example, contracts. When you, I'm a journalist as well. So when you go to a certain meeting or so and contracts are being issued, it would have different figures. And some are not even close.
Okay, so these would be like when they have like a press conference or something like that. and you have multiple media houses going, and then they come away with different information, or they're publishing information that is different, as you mentioned. All right.
Yes.
Right. We have memes. Can you guys think of any meme that was created that shared false information? Now, again, it might not be intentional to be sharing the false information. They might not have the intention to harm, but nevertheless, these things get hundreds of reactions, thousands of shares, and things like that. So do you know of any, can you give me an example that you could think of? All right, so I'm hoping that you're thinking about it, and I'm hoping that you're reflecting upon, when you're scrolling through social media, different memes that you would come across. And I'm also hoping that this gets you thinking about whether you're one of those persons who would normally share these things. And so, I want you to be thinking about, okay, so, maybe I'm guilty of sharing false information. So at least if you can't think of any right now, think of instances where you may have been sharing false information. All right, so when it comes to the practical jokes, and the memes would be the same thing. It's where you have, people genuinely, you might have pages that are comedy pages, so they generally post comedic content. So, they want to be funny, they want to achieve fame. So for example, if they see that local government elections is trending, they'll want to post something about the local government elections because that's a topic that's trending. I know we had nomination day was trending, right? And so to capitalize on some of that fame, they'll now go ahead and post something about nomination day, for example. That is not true, right? Just because they want to be able to have their content getting all the reactions and all the shares and to increase followers and likes and things like that. For profit and scams, you have like businesses making false claims about a product. We know there's thieves trying to cheat people out of their savings. You might see that, call this person to pay down on a house lot, right? But again, that is false information. And if we think about when we had the pyramid scheme in Guyana, that was a huge issue we had in Guyana with the pyramid scheme, because people were posting about, I made this investment and this is my returns, and I was able to get 100% return on my investment, and they're calling it an investment, but really it was a pyramid scheme. Good. So propaganda is more closely related to elections, to looking at certain government bodies, looking at political parties. In that realm of looking at elections, you'll see propaganda, and this is where you have deliberate false information that aims to simplify, exaggerate, or exploit in order to separate people and keep a certain group in power. Now, the prejudice content. The prejudice content is content that targets people specifically because of, let's say, their ethnic background, or if they come from other minority groups or marginalized groups, right? These would be content that specifically target those people. And you'll see the spreading of damaging information about the person. I think Trevor, you talked about this, to ruin someone's reputation. And you also have instances where their perspectives are not included. So it's like somebody coming and tell you something about somebody else, and you're just getting that one person's perspective. You're not getting other perspectives so that you can be able to make up your mind about, what kind of information I'm being fed. Before I move on, are there any questions or anything you would like to talk or discuss a little bit more before we move on? Remember, this is a training for you, right? So if you know that you're not, fully clear on an idea or a concept, please feel free to interrupt, let me know, send a message, and let us have a discussion. So I'll just give some time here for any questions or comments. You could unmute and say no to I know it's Saturday, right? We might have to have an energizer to wake you guys up if it is that you're sleeping. All right.
No questions or comments at this point.
Okay. Good. So now we'll move to this other part, and this is where we'll have some activities, because this is your job here now. This is your role in this project, right? Reporting information to GCOPD about local government elections. So before we go to how you go about doing all of these things, let's talk a bit about what the cycle would look like in this project, right? What the cycle would look like for what you would be doing. Arming yourself with knowledge. This deals with the factual information, because if you are sending information to us, right, about the voting process, if you are sending information to us, categorizing it as positive or negative information, you'll have to know what that looks like. You'll have to know what the voting process is, and we'll be sending that information to you in very brief and summarized forms, so you'll be able to, quickly scan through, refresh your memory, things like that. You have to know when is the local government elections, and information relating to the scope. So what is it we're asking you to look for specifically? Creating your schedules and checking online. Now, some of you work. So what you have to do is get a schedule that you'll be working with. So if it is that you'll be free from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, then use that as your schedule, and that is when you'll be scrolling through social media, right? So for this project specifically, I want you guys to have schedules and choose times that are convenient to you, but also keep in mind that people are usually active on social media during certain times. So let's say during lunchtime, when people have a break from work and so on, they usually pick up their phones and scroll through social media. In the evenings, when people get home from work and they're in bed or they're relaxing, you'll find that they're scrolling through social media. So it means that they're posting things, they're sharing things. And so it's important to keep that in mind. Checking the online sources. When I say social media, I also I'm talking about online blogs, websites, or online news that would usually be posting information, right? So the reason why you were selected for your particular region is because you know your region best. For instance, let's say in region 9, people don't use Instagram. People don't use Twitter. Let's say people use WhatsApp mostly, or Facebook Messenger mostly, or maybe they use BIP app mostly. And so you'll know which social media platforms you have to be looking at, right? In region 4, people might be more active on Twitter. In region 10, let's say they might be more active on Instagram. And so you'll know which social media platforms you have to be inspecting and looking at. Then completing the recording form or the reporting form. So we'll share this form with you in a few minutes when you have to do your activity, and we'll go through the form and you'll see what you have to do. That is how we'll be monitoring what you're finding and what you're recording, right? And then finally, which is the most important part of this project, developing the counter messages. And you'll have Merida talking to you a bit about that. Developing and posting the counter messages, right? So if it is that we see that people are mostly spreading false information about the voting process, right? They're saying that if you are a person with a disability, you would not be allowed to vote. Let's say that, for example. Then we'll be developing the counter messages for you to post with the facts, right? And that will be the cycle. So we'll be doing this over the next 3 months. And at the end of every week, or depending on what your schedules are like, I will be meeting with you individually to follow up, see what challenges you have, see what we can do. Maybe we can come together back as a group, brainstorm other ways. You know, this project is not, it doesn't have a very rigid format, because as information comes up when you're reporting it, then we'll know, okay, maybe we need to change this strategy. Maybe we need to try this other way, right? So this is something that's very flexible and that we have to learn every week as we go by to be able to effectively combat any form of disinformation. Good. So this here now talks about what information it is you're looking for. So this is the scope. You have any information relating to who can vote, right? Any information relating to who could vote or who's eligible to vote, the voting process, requirements for voting. So if somebody's saying that, if somebody's posting information about you cannot vote without your ID card, then that will be related to requirements for voting. Where to find information on the list of registered persons, voting by proxy and accompanied voting, and this would be for persons with disabilities, persons who are out of the jurisdiction at the time of elections. This is relating to that. Any information relating to casting a valid ballot, right? How do you cast a valid ballot? What is considered a spoiled ballot or a valid ballot? Now, coming up back to the voting process, we also want to look at information relating to the integrity of the voting process, right? Or the integrity of the elections process. On that note, I want to say that we have to be very careful at this point that we keep the scope in mind, because what we are not looking at and what we are not concerned with is political parties, any information about political parties specifically, right? We're not looking at political parties specifically. So if somebody's posting information about a political party, then we're not concerned with that. We are concerned with the scope here, which is these things that I have listed out here, the elections specifically, right? Now, later on, I have some examples that I would like us to look at and brainstorm and decide whether the information is about a political party or whether it's about the integrity of the process. And this is why we have to go through examples, because sometimes the information may not be as clear cut and it might be difficult. If that is the case, remember, you can always reach out and we'll be in contact. So we'll always have that space where we could discuss and revise some of the content that you guys are coming across and so on. Good. The next step is categorizing your data. So you come across information about somebody saying that you can't you can't vote without your ID, for example. Now you have to categorize it: positive, negative, or neutral. At this point, you are not looking at whether or not the information is true. You are just categorizing it. So you're collecting the information once it fits the scope, you're collecting that information, and then you are deciding, is it portraying a positive narrative? Is it portraying a negative narrative? Or is it neutral, right? The information might be true, but it might be portraying a negative narrative, right? The information might be false, but it's portraying a positive narrative. So that's why we're not looking at whether or not it's true at this point. You are not looking at whether or not the information is true. You are just looking at, is this portraying a negative narrative? Is it positive or is it neutral, right? So an easy way for you to identify this is thinking, okay, how do I feel towards this? How does this message here makes me feel? Does it make me have doubt about the process or doubt about the information? Then that could be categorized as negative, right? If it's positive, is this written in a way that it is encouraging? Then that might be positive. And the neutral would be just information that is there that is neither negative nor positive. Good. Now, I will ask Alana . Alana, can you share the link to the form in the chat for me, please?
Okay.
So the form will be coming through in the chat. And she will also share it in the WhatsApp group if you're more comfortable accessing it there. Alana, share your screen with the form, please.
And that's why I think trending now is the downward
Good. So if you're unable to click the link right now, that's okay. Alana has it on the screen there. Good. Now, in the first, well, it's a very simple form, right? So you put in your name, so we know that who is submitting, which one of the volunteer is submitting the information. And just give me 1 minute. Yeah. You'll select your administrative region. You'll select, where did you get this information from? Which social media platform? If it's an online blog, you'll select other and you'll put in the name, right? So if it's an online blog, you'll put that in so that we'll know. And then you categorize the information. Is it positive, negative, or neutral? And then the final section is where you paste the URL or the link, right? And this is where we'll be able to click that link and have direct access to the post or to the website that you got the information from. So it's a very simple form, and it just keeps everything very simple, and it makes it easy for us to revise it. So we'll be able to know who submitted it, which region you're from, and we'll have basic information, or the basics about the data that you're reporting. If it's negative, positive, neutral, and which platform you got it from. Right? Any questions on the form? No questions on the form? No, yes. Okay, somebody thinks central. All right, good, right. So we want to keep everything simple because remember, the most, and I want us to keep this in mind, the most important part of the project is developing the counter messaging strategy. And Meredith is going to deal with that session. But we want to keep everything simple so that we could get moving on collecting data and start developing our counter messages, right? Good. So what I'm going to do now is get you some practice, and we can have a discussion about the information, the samples that I have here for you. Alana, so we're going to go through the 3 pieces that I have collected first, and then I will put you into breakout rooms, and each group will have one piece to look at, and you'll go through and decide if it's what category it falls into, and we'll have a talk about it, right? So Alana, go ahead and we'll do the video first. Play the video. Don't forget to share your sound. Good.
Days after submitting their lists of candidates for the upcoming local government elections, the ruling People's Progressive Party, Civic, and the main opposition of Partnership for National Unity are accusing each other of forging signatures of candidates and backers on each other's lists. At a press conference this morning, leader of the opposition and chairman of the APNU, Aubrey Norton, said the PP Civic has unpacked its old bag of tricks and has engaged in a scheme of coercion, intimidation, and bribery of voters. He said the compounded situation, the PP Civic has reportedly forged the signatures of several individuals on its list.
The APNU wishes to bring to the attention of all Guyanese that the PPP forged the signatures of many Guyanese. This is another manifestation of their corrupt nature. Many of those persons whose signatures were forged by the PPP in support of the PPP wrote GCOM demanding the withdrawal of their names. We await the outcome of that.
In support of the claims, the APNU released scanned copies of a number of statutory declarations made by PP Civic candidates, which, according to the opposition leader, contained the forged signatures. He said the APNU will be registering its objections at the level of the Elections Commission. Even as he continued to register his party's lack of confidence in the chairman of the Elections Commission, Norton accused GCOM of approving a defective list submitted by the PP Civic.
In the Woodlands Bel Air NEC, the PPP's list was rejected by GCOM officials because all the signatures for first past the post and proportional representation were signed by one person. The PPP was given up to Tuesday, 18th April, to correct this illegality. They made another submission, and again, all of them were signed by one person for everyone. Unfortunately, GCOM illegally has given them the go-ahead to participate. It must be noted that there are persons who are thumbprinters, and rather than their thumbprint appearing, they were signed for. This amounts to fraud and will be challenged.
And hours after the opposition leaders' press conference, the General Secretary of the PPP, Vice President Barra Jagdeo, laid similar claims at the feet of the APNU.
I agree with Mr. Norton on this point, that anyone who has committed any illegality in these elections should face the full brunt of the law. And so we are aware that Mr. Norton's party has forged many candidates, their signatures, placed them on lists that they never had any knowledge of. They've forged signatures for the backers, and we're taking steps to address this matter.
Mr. Jagdeo also disputed the claim by the opposition leader that the APNU is contesting in almost all of the constituencies spread across the 80 local authority areas.
Now, what are the facts? The facts are that APNU only contested in 279 of the 610 constituencies across the country. APNU contested, I'm repeating this, APNU is contesting in 279 of the 610 constituencies in the country. That's about 45% of all the constituencies in the country.
Jagdeo said due to the limited number of constituencies in which the opposition and other groups are contesting, it is clear that his party will overwhelmingly win the upcoming local elections.
So what this means that there will be no contest and no contest in about 283 of the 610 constituencies. That means that the PPP has already won those constituencies because we contested in all 610 right across the country. So we have already practically won 283 of the 610 constituencies.
Local government elections are set to take place on the 12th of June.
All right, good. So that's one piece. Bring up the other one, Alana, please, the photo. I think you have to Is everyone able to see it on the screen, or does it have to be larger? Can somebody confirm for me, please?
I think the
I
text size is good, but if you'd like assistance reading it, or if Alana can
Okay.
read it out.
Okay. All right. Daniel, could you go ahead and read it, please? Because Alana gets nervous when she has to read.
This is a caption from villagevoicenews.com. It's posted on what seems to be their Village Voice News 20 hours ago. All is not well with the Diamond Grove District for local government elections come Monday, June 12th, 2023. The People's Progressive Party Civic candidates list for Diamond Grove area shows the handwriting of one person signing for 6 candidates. The only change was the first name.
Sorry, is anyone else having trouble hearing Danielle?
Yeah, she sounds a bit
Yes.
low.
Yeah, Danielle, I think your mic may be covered or something.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better.
Yes, much better.
Okay, I had to move closer to the router. I think it was a signal. Okay, I'm gonna read it over. All is not well in the Diamond Grove District for local government elections come Monday, June 12th, 2023. The People's
For me, I'm still barely hearing you.
Meredith, perhaps you wanna, if you're getting better signal.
Yeah, it's hard to hear you. It says all is not well in the Diamond Grove District for local government elections come Monday, June 12th, 2023. The People's Progressives Party Civics PPPC candidates list for a Diamond Grove area shows the handwriting of one person signing for 6 candidates. The only change was the first name initial, which is either M or P. Information keeps coming in on the number of irregularities in the process, ... And then it's a link to an article from Village Voice News. And then a photo of a blurry candidate list.
All right, good. Thank you. Alana, pull up the third piece. That's the one that you placed in a PowerPoint. Yes, Meredith, could you just read for me, please? Thank you.
Sure thing. It says Guyana Elections Commission, eligibility requirements to vote at local government elections. The eligibility requirements for voting at local government elections are: you must be a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, or naturalization, or a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more. You must be 18 years or over by May 22nd, 2023. You must be registered and living in the municipality or neighborhood democratic council and the constituency in which you are desirous of voting, and you must be listed on the register of voters for the municipality or neighborhood democratic council and the constituency in which you are desirous of voting. For further information, contact GCOM on the following hotline numbers. Then there's a list of phone numbers, or visit the GCOM website at www.gcom.org.gy or the GCOM Facebook page, or send queries to pro@gcom.org.gy.
All right, good. Thank you so much. Good. So before I put you into your breakout rooms, I want you to keep 2 things in mind as you go into your groups: the scope and categorizing, right? How to categorize. Are there any questions before I place you into the breakout rooms? Daniel, I'll just ask you to reopen the breakout rooms, right?
Sure, no problem.
Any questions before we go into the breakout rooms? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No? Good. All right, so go ahead and open the breakout rooms. I'll give you about 6 minutes to go through. Alana, you'll just go ahead and send the 3 pieces of content to the WhatsApp group so they would also have access there.
No problem.
Good. Who joined us, Chandel? Somebody joined us.
Yeah, my internet just lagged and I was logged out, so it just logging back on the link.
Okay, Amanda?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Amanda, you're in room 2. I just assigned you. Just select the link so that you can head into the breakout room.
Okay.
Daniel and Meredith, I must thank you guys for doing this on a Saturday.
Oh, no, it's fine. Thank you for doing it. I'm sure it's like the best time for all the volunteers too, because probably some of them have work. But yeah, it's no
Yeah.
problem.
No worries, Rosemary. We got you covered.
Yeah, thanks.
Wait,
Oh,
where are
just some mic check. Are you guys hearing me better now?
Yes, much
Yeah.
better, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Rosemary, when are you leaving for Chile?
I am already in Chile.
That's what I thought. I was like, aren't you supposed to be in Chile? How's it going?
Good. I got in last night. I got in. And yeah, I slept pretty late because I was still making sure that everything was good for today. But it's going good so far. It's not like Costa Rica, not a lot of people know English.
Oh,
Yeah, so apparently, like, it's not common for people to know English here.
got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can just make it up as you go along. Spanish isn't that hard.
Yeah, yeah. And I have Yashim too. She's, because we came on the same flight. So she's
Oh, good.
assisting, yeah.
That's great. Say hi to Yeshim for me.
I will definitely do that. She just messaged me and told me she not too long got up. She going out.
Photo to them.
What was that?
They're asking if you're appointing the photo or video to them.
Oh my.
Thank you.
I completely forgot that. Yeah, let group 1 do the video. Group 2 do the GCOM and group 3 do the other one.
Okay.
Village voice. Okay. Oh my.
That happens to the best of us.
I know. I just want to get this training out of the way so we could start.
Yeah.
Get everything rolling and just. All right, Daniel, I think you, oh, I see Dominique keep joining and leaving, so I'm not sure if it's internet or what. Okay.
He will automatically be assigned back to the group if he
Oh,
comes out.
okay, okay, so I guess that's why he joined and left. Mhm. All right, I'm just stepping away for a few seconds and I'll be back. So just in case anybody think Alana, I'll be back, right? Just now.
No problem.
All right, I'm back. So the electrical outlet here is very different. I get tons of adapter.
Do you have an adapter that works?
Yeah, I borrowed one from the front desk, but it was just to fit it up. Now some fancy plugs here.
But sorry, one of the groups is asking if they have to fill out the form.
No, no, they're not doing the form.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And the video, it is not related to the voting process, and it is in the negative category, where group A is spreading malinformation on group B and vice versa.
All right, good. Group 2 and 3, can I get your opinion on this, please? Remember, we having a discussion, right, people? So there's no right, wrong. We're brainstorming here. So group 2 and 3, can I have your take on this, please?
Yes, Rose. For group 3, on the video, we came up with neutral because
No, hold on. Not for your stuff. For the video.
for the video,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
we think the video is neutral since it doesn't affect the voting process. Both parties were bickering to each other about their process. Yes,
right.
it may be negative for their supporters, but when it comes to the voting process, I don't think it really generalized in, you know.
Okay. Someone else?
Trevor, Parmeshwar, anything from you guys?
I don't think there's much for me to say because I'll only be repeating. But yeah, we're going with negative since it does not affect the voting process.
All right. All right, good. So this is why I selected that particular story, because it will not always be as clear cut, right? Now, what I would have placed it as is negative, but focusing on the aspect of the electoral process. So while it does not talk about the voting process, remember, local government elections is not just about voting day. It's not just about June 12th. It's all the activities that lead up to June 12th. And while there are political parties that are arguing and what's not, what I want you guys to focus on is the integrity of the process, right? So what is being questioned in that story, what is being questioned is the integrity of GCOM. So the question is, are they or are they not publishing fraudulent lists of candidates? So this is not about the two political parties involved. This is about GCOM, because GCOM is the sole body responsible for maintaining the integrity of elections and ensuring that people are equipped with the right information about elections. Right? You guys see where I'm going with this?
One of the things raised though, Rose, if I can just jump in, is that while, yes, the objective or the goal of that piece, the way it was done and what it's discussing, well, not the way it was done, what is discussing can be negative and question the integrity of GCOM. The piece itself can be considered neutral. And this was the discussion in group 3, because you had one side proposing XYZ of what you say, forging of signatures, but an opportunity was given to the other side to counteract that and to give their side to the whole issue or the story. So based on that, group 3 would have concluded that it's neutral. While it is casting doubt on the process and GCOM's integrity, it is portraying the article is done in a neutral way. So it gives the listener or the consumer of that information an opportunity to draw their own conclusion. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Ifas, if you don't mind, can I have your take on this? On the categories, how we categorize.
Danielle, you want to jump in first?
No, I'm gonna let you take the lead, Meredith.
So how we categorize based, just so I understand the question, how
Yeah.
we categorize based on malinformation, misinformation, disinformation, those categories?
No, whether the piece is neutral, negative, or positive. Looking at it from the perspective of creating doubt in the integrity of the process, 1. And 2, the other point is it being a news media piece, a media piece, gives the perspective. So would that mean that it's neutral? Give both perspectives.
Well, I guess it's a tough one, right? Because as journalists, you need to report what you see and what's happening. And sometimes elections are not perfect. Sometimes something can happen that does cast doubt on the process for a legitimate reason. What you need to look for is whether or not the journalists are doing their homework effectively. So do they have enough evidence to justify what they're reporting in a responsible manner? So looking at the content of the piece, are they reporting a rumor that they haven't substantiated, or are they reporting something that they verified? And I think that's how you can determine whether or not something is being politically used to cast doubt on the process for illegitimate reasons, like getting more viewership, selling advertisements, making people click on your link, to create excitement or anxiety. Or is it casting down on the process because something has actually happened that people should be concerned about, that they've verified? So I think that's sort of the standard that you have to look at it with. So when you're reading the piece, is there enough evidence cited, and has the journalist proven that this is a fact, or are they reporting something that could potentially be happening, but they're not sure? The second question, if journalists have a perspective, that one's really hard because everyone has a perspective, right? Everybody has a bias in some ways. It's whether or not the journalist is making an effort to be as objective as possible. And you can catch this stuff by, are they using opinionated words? Are they using adjectives that aren't backed up in fact? And kind of, use your judgment in that regard. But everybody has a perspective. It's whether or not you're being responsible and trying to be as objective as possible in what you're reporting.
All right, good. Thanks, Meredith. So Ganesh, I would still categorize it as negative. Reason being, while there were 2 perspectives, the main issue was questioning the integrity of the process, and the main body who could have responded to this was not in that. It was not in that piece. because GCOM was the person who had to speak on this. Because again, they're the main body responsible for that.
Can I just pitch in my 2 cents?
Yes, go ahead, Danielle.
I agree with you, Rosemary. I think that I would categorize that video as negative. And because the term being used there is neutral, I wouldn't necessarily say it was neutral. I would say that in the reporting process, it was probably fair to obviously hear the perspective or the sides, or to report on both sides, because I noticed that in that video, there was both the leader of the opposition as well as the leader of the PPPC party being able to speak, or not being able to speak, them reporting on their press conferences. And I believe they would have been given, well, I wasn't counting how much time each would have been given to speak or the report captured, but it was fair. I wouldn't necessarily think that it was neutral. Neutral would have been having, like you said, the third party, who would have been GCOM, to give their view on the process, to say, well, this wasn't so, or in order to negate or to actually give the factual scenario of what played out. If they're doing an investigation, or if these legitimate claims have been made by either parties, or if this is just some sort of disinformation.
Excellent food for thought. So I'm sure our volunteers benefited significantly.
Yes, yes. So volunteers, right. You see, this is why it's important for us to discuss it. Because what you want to look at when we say negative, right? When we say, is this piece negative? Is this piece positive? Is it neutral? So at this point, let's put malinformation, disinformation, misinformation aside, because we'll deal with that when we move on in the cycle of the project, when we move on to the other part, right? Developing the countering messages. But for now, this is whether it's true, whether it's false. Is this information negative? Is it positive? Is it neutral? So what makes it negative? Again, is it creating fear or doubt in the process? Right? Or is it creating fear and doubt about the electoral process? So when people are looking at that piece, are they doubtful now? Are they unsure? Are they uncertain about, you know, what the truth of the process is? Because GCOM would be able to say that we have this process, and this is what our action will be, right? And if the news piece was neutral, meaning that, you know, it was neither negative nor positive, then there should have been that third party GCOM there to be able to give their side on it, to say, as Daniel said, well, you know, this was brought to our attention and we're investigating it. Then people would be able to say, oh, well, you know, at least something is being done about it, rather than just portraying this as a problem that can now potentially cause people to start questioning and having doubt about, you know, what is actually taking place. And the second aspect, which was deciding whether or not this fits into the scope, as I said, we're not concerned about who's saying what, who's doing what in terms of political parties. That's not what we're concerned about. What we're looking at is that the process of GCOM, right? Their process of looking after the nomination of candidates, publishing the names, because if you go on their page, you'll see that they're publishing the different candidates for the different constituency. So the thing is that process is being accused of being fraudulent. So this directly affects the electoral process. We don't, as I said, we're not concerned about who's saying what, because both of them are accusing each other. So let's put that aside for a moment and look at what the issue is in the piece, right? It is the process of nominating candidates. That process is being accused of fraudulence, right? Of being fraudulent. And so that is what we'll focus on, that process there. We're not, again, and I really want you guys to understand this, because the thing is that when we started this project, one of the things that we made clear is that we understand that everybody has a right to support whichever political party. And we understand that you all come to us, you know, having your own political views, your own political support, whatever the case is, and that's fine. And so we're not going to ask you to, you know, don't do X or don't do Y. But what we want you to focus on is remaining neutral throughout this. And again, when you look at a piece, you want to see, what is this piece portraying about the local government elections? Not about a party, but about the elections in itself. So if we were to remove the two political parties and replace it with party banana and party apple, it would still be the same issue. You understand? You guys understand where I'm going?
Yes.
Right. So that's what you want to focus on. That issue there that's being created, right? All right, good. Group 1, you had also mentioned malinformation, misinformation, and so on being spread. Again, that's not what we're deciding at this point in time, right? In this first stage where you go out and collect the information, please don't focus on whether or not it's true. Just focus on whether or not it involves the electoral process or the scope that we talked about, and how do you categorize it, negative, positive, or neutral, right? Because you'll see in the form, we don't have anything there asking you, is this misinformation? Is this disinformation? Is this malinformation, right? Good. So thank you very much, Group 1. Group 2? Who was in Group 2? Why are you afraid for talk, man? Group 2. Who was in Group 2?
I remember Lennox being in group 2.
Oh, yes,
and
yes. Amanda, Narifa, Devendra, Lennox, yes. Go ahead, Group 2. Narifa, don't lie. All right, the other group members. Come on, let's go through this quickly. Remember, we have another session to
Hello,
do.
hi.
Mhm.
Yes, I hear me now? All right.
Yep.
So we did the one with the GCOM post pertaining to giving information and how stuff is done. For me, that would be a positive, and it won't be related to any political party. That's our group's perspective on it.
Group 1 and 2, what do you think about this? Do you think it's positive, negative, or neutral?
Group 3 decided that it was neutral, sorry.
Okay. All right. Yes, Group 2, it would be classified as neutral. The reason is that it's just giving you factual information, right? That's all it's giving. It's not saying that this is an amazing process to do X, Y, Z, right? So it's not really capitalizing on emotions, or it's not using emotive words. It's just, this is the fact, these are the requirements to vote, and that's it. So it would be neutral, right? If maybe it was saying something like, you should be, I don't know, like this is the process, and we are proud in this process, and we're excited about people knowing about these requirements. In that case, it would be classified as positive, right? Because it's portraying a positive narrative. Group 2, understand?
Yeah, I got it. We got
Right.
it, sorry.
Okay, and yes, it does fall within the scope because it talks about the requirements to vote. Good. Group 3. The final piece.
Based on the information that was based on the information that was given, rather, we decided that it was a negative, in the fact that it was causing doubt over the list being used, and we couldn't at the time verify whether it's an actual screenshot or photo of the official list because of the part that we were only able to see.
Right. Okay, that's fair. All right, good. Yes, I agree, because again, it's creating doubt in the process, and it doesn't bring enough verification to the piece for us to say, well, this is a neutral piece, right? Good, great job, guys. I'm happy that we were able to flesh some of these things out. Remember, I don't expect each and every one of you to, like get it right every time, or maybe we might decide to change. If you submit something as neutral, we might look at it and say, well, okay, this appears to be negative, and so we can have that discussion about it, because remember, you are just like the people who will be scrolling across social media, coming across these things. So maybe you feel that it's neutral, right? And that's okay, because we have to look and see, okay, how are people generally receiving this, right? Go ahead, Daniel.
Can I give a positive example
Go
of,
ahead, yes.
yes, one of our positive examples would be our voter education peer set
Yes.
assessment all across Guyana. So look out for it.
Yes, that would definitely be a positive. It's if you go on the IFES Guyana page, GCOPD page, Ghana National Youth Council's page, YCG Youth Challenge Ghana, you'll see where the volunteers are out there, and they're saying, come out and vote, have a gap with us, learn about the elections process, make an impact in your community, things like that. That would definitely be a positive narrative about the elections, right? Good. And before I close off my session, please, guys, remember we are a team. Reach out. If you have a question, post it in the group. Maybe someone else has the same question, and we could, have a discussion, right? Because we really want to work towards developing good counter messaging so that we can be able to combat any form of disinformation and so on being spread about the local government elections. All right, thank you guys so much, and I will now hand over to Meredith. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Rosemary. It's been great to listen and learn from all of you today. And as Rosemary said, we're a team. So one of the big things that this team is going to be working on is developing counter messages. So can everyone see my screen? Hello?
Yes.
I can, yeah.
Yes, I can.
Great. So we're just going to go through some ideas about developing counter messaging, but we really want to have a brainstorm and talk about this together. So let's say that you do see something that's concerning, something that's negative, something that's bad information. what do you do next? So here are some key elements to consider. So I'll just read this slide aloud. Who is the actor? So who is sharing the information? Is it a media outlet? Is it an individual? Is it a political party? Is it a GCOM official? What is the message really? So sometimes this takes a little minute to think about because people use a lot of different approaches to sharing bad information. So you really need to drill down and think, okay, what are they actually saying? Is there mal, or disinformation or hate speech? So after you figure out what the message is, what is it? Is it wrong information that's being shared with good intent? Is it like correct information that's being shared with bad intent? Is it wrong information that's being shared with the wrong intent? Or is it a specific type of information that would be harmful to a specific group of people based on their identity? So who is interpreting and sharing the message? So if you have who's the actor, who's creating the message, who's doing it, who's sharing it? Because if only one person says something and it just sort of dies in that room, in that space, then really who cares? What makes hate speech and disinformation so dangerous is that we share it immediately, right? We forward it on WhatsApp, we share it on Facebook, we tell our friends, and then suddenly you have a really big problem. Then how can you protect or defend or help the person or group who's attacked? So there's always a victim at the end of the day of this bad speech. And what can we do as a responsible community to help that person? And who else can help? So as Rosemary said, we're a team, we work together, and we can brainstorm, all right, if we see something really concerning, what can we do as a group? But also maybe there are other resources out there. There are other groups of people out there who can help on the same thing. How can we counter this message? So it's not enough to just not share, right? To see something and be like, oh, that's bad, and close your computer. You need to be active in countering that message. And your counter message has to be just as successful in spreading as the bad message itself. So you need to have a good communication strategy. And how can you de-escalate and get people to calm down? So let's talk about this countering disinformation. There are a number of strategies that you can use. You can target the actor. So let's say there's one individual who's sharing this information that's wrong. You can target them and say, you know, you have to stop doing this. You can report them to authorities if it's like a threat of violence. You can report them to social media platforms. You can target the message. So you see the message is wrong and you think, okay, I need to correct this message. So I'm going to have a different counter message out there. You could target how it spreads. So if you know that it's being shared on Facebook, you can report that message to Facebook and say, this is harmful speech, you need to take it down. If it's being shared by a media outlet, you can ask them to take it down. You can target the general public, so you can do public awareness campaigns, and you can support the target or the victim of that message. So I'm going to go through a couple of examples of counter messaging campaigns in different areas around the world. And then we can have a little chat about what we're going to do in Guyana, because I'm sure that this group has some amazing ideas about how to address this issue here. So countering election-related hate speech and disinformation in Sri Lanka was done by a group that did the public awareness route. So they had a short video campaigns about a young man named Demutu who saw different elements of misinformation or disinformation or hate speech and went about his day, you know, trying to either learn the correct information. And it's an educational video series, which is on YouTube. There was also a hashtag, the hashtag generation is a youth group in Sri Lanka, and they did a lot of videos about countering COVID-19 hate speech and disinformation. So, I mean, as Danielle talked about earlier, there was, you know, anti-Chinese messaging that was out there that's very dangerous, hate speech. There was a lot of disinformation about what to do about the virus, about the vaccine. So hashtag generation put together short video clips to counter a lot of the information that was bad that was out there. So saying this is actually the correct one, not what you're hearing on the street. Whoop. Then in Kenya, they did digital banners and ads to prevent hate speech. So they took different advertisements out on online newspapers, and they strategically placed these digital banners and takeover pages on websites to reinforce a zero tolerance policy to hate speech messages to the perpetrators. So this is how they were reaching the perpetrators themselves. So they're targeting the actor, whereas the previous one was targeting the message, and the one before was targeting the public. So this is saying, you know, we won't tolerate it. We won't listen to hate speech. They also had a National Cohesion and Integration Commission peace pledge. So they allowed people from the public, but also they really targeted political parties and people who were campaigning to encourage Kenyans to pledge that they would uphold peaceful coexistence during the electoral period. So this is targeting two things, you know, the actor and also how things spread, right? So it's saying, I'm not going to share information. I'm not going to, that's wrong. I'm not going to spread hate speech. And I'm also not going to commit hate speech or violence during the election period. They also did a really powerful PSA video campaign and a webpage called #BetterThanThis. There's huge issues of violence against women in politics in Kenya. And what they were trying to do in Kenya was really make a public call to say, we're better than this. We're better than the way that we are treating women in politics in Kenya, and had a really powerful message featuring women who had faced violence, speaking to the public, speaking to both perpetrators, but also garnering support from the community. And I encourage you to look up the videos. They're really great. In Indonesia, they did a Mythbuster campaign. So there was a group of largely young people across Indonesia. Indonesia is huge. It's the 4th most populous country in the world. So there's a lot of misinformation that spread really, really quickly over the thousands of islands. And there was a lot of misinformation and disinformation, particularly about the election. So this group of people would look for this misinformation, kind of like what we're doing in this exercise. They're looking for bad information about the election. And then they would have a Mythbuster campaign. So they would put together these little digital flyers, and they'd have the bad information X'd out with #election_hoax. And then they'd correct it with election facts below. So on the top, you can see that the election hoax is 7 containers of ballot papers for the presidential election have been punctured. This is a hoax that was spread on 2nd of January, 2019. And they've crossed it out, which is important. Wanting to reshare very clear that this is not the information they want to share. And then you have election facts below. The design for the presidential election ballot paper is not yet completed. Validation of the ballot paper was scheduled for the 4th of January. The printing of ballot papers is scheduled for the 16th of January. So what they're saying is, you know, 7 containers of ballot papers for the presidential election could not have been punctured because they haven't even been printed yet. And this is a photo of the Mythbuster group, the Hoax Crisis Center. And they were doing an X with their hands to bust myths. They worked, I think, in shifts around the clock to look at what was happening online so that they could respond really quickly to whatever was happening. And they also had a crisis center that people could ask, like, is this true? Is this right? And they could go to a website, turnbackhoax.id, and ask. So here's some good practices for countering disinformation. The first is be accurate, lead with facts. People need facts, and they also respond to facts really well. If it sounds like a fact, they're much more likely to believe it than if it sounds like your opinion or, you know, someone who's like, hey, this isn't fair, or it's not nice. I mean, if you lead with emotion, people aren't always going to take you that seriously. So lead with facts, be accurate. You don't want to unintentionally spread misinformation in your attempt to discredit bad information. Be visual, so use a lot of different formats to share your message. The whole key is mis and disinformation is a hot topic. People love reading bad news. People, purposefully scaremonger, right? They try to drum up fear and anxiety in the public, and people eat it up and they consume it and they spit it out and they share it. And so you have to be really appealing in terms of counter messaging too. So it needs to be something that's, going to grab people's attention just as much as the bad information did. Establish a verified voice. So people need to know that they can trust you when you're countering disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, or hate speech. So you need to sort of have like, what is this group that's sending out information? Who are these people? What is this campaign? You need to kind of have a brand and a verified voice that people know that they can trust, that is nonpartisan, that is going to be objective and give them, the good information. Develop simple, accurate counter message. So keep things simple, keep things short. Don't, try to teach people a history lesson in your counter message, because people aren't going to read it. So pretty much just assume that people have an attention span of about 3 seconds and aim to create something that will be useful in just a couple of seconds. If they're scrolling through and they see that, they can read it and go, oh, okay, I didn't know that. And then move on their internet search to go look at videos of cats or whatever else they're doing. Respond quickly to high risk narratives. So I think we've all seen things in Guyana escalate really quickly because of misinformation and disinformation in the last couple of years. So it's really important for people to respond quickly, whether that's through your own counter message, contacting the actor, providing support to victims, or however you choose to do it. But just recognizing that violence and bad information in the online space can translate so quickly to violence and instability in the real public space. So we have to act fast when we see things that are dangerous or potentially dangerous. So assure rather than persuade. So assure people, stay calm, here's the facts, rather than trying to convince people and form an argument and come from that kind of emotional viewpoint. And refer back to your values. One of the main values that we've talked about today is being nonpartisan. But we also have a lot of other shared values, regardless of what people's political opinions are. And that's for people to have the information they need, for people to be peaceful, for people to be respectful, and to not target people because of their race or their gender or their disability. So remembering what, at the end of the day, all of our shared values are, is important, and making sure that when people ask us about a counter message, that those values are clear, that we're meant to be objective, that we're meant to be neutral, that we're meant to be nonpartisan, and that we're here to keep people calm and informed. So that's the end of the presentation, but now we get to do the fun stuff, which is hear from you about what ideas you might have. So I'm going to divide you into 2 groups for about, let's say, I'll give you 7 minutes, but I want you to come up with a counter message for 2 scenarios. Group 1, your message that you're trying to counter is that people are saying that the election day is June 13th, when it's actually June 12th. And this is to make sure that there's low voter turnout for whatever reason. That's what the actor wants. So in a public space, this message is being shared on WhatsApp. The election date has changed. This is being shared on Facebook. The election date has changed. It's now June 13th. Vote on June 13th. That's group 1's bad message. And I want you to come up with a way to counter that message and how you would do it. Group 2, the message that you have is that one of the political parties is paying voters to go and vote for multiple times. So this party is paying voters to go and cast more than one ballot. And they're just walking up to polling stations and saying that there's someone who actually lives outside of Guyana. So this is in the news. This is a media piece. So I want you to think about how to counter that message. That's group 2. So I will.
Could you just repeat group 2 scenario for me, please, Meredith?
Sure. Group 2 scenario is that a news article is going around and being read by a lot of people that one of the political parties is paying people to vote more than once. So saying, okay, you can vote as yourself, but then we want you to say that you're this other person who doesn't live in Guyana and go vote again.
Okay, good.
Cool. So I will put you in these groups and give you 7 minutes. Trevor, have you received an invitation to a breakout room?
Not as yet.
Oh, well, that's strange, isn't it? There you go. You should have one now.
Great, I do. Thank you.
Thanks. And I'm assuming that anyone in this group can join whichever group they want if they want to join a group at all.
Yes, I'm going to head into one of the groups. I'll do group 2.
I'll do security work out here.
Yeah, I can bounce into the groups and check them out.
Cool. Paying people to so group 2. Be brave. Have courage. Unmute.
Okay, I'll go. We were still, let's say we were in the middle of brainstorming what exactly we were going to do, but some of the ideas were that we were going to make a social media post. It would more than likely take a form of a flyer or, yes, a flyer. And we were going to counteract by using facts that would be derived from GCOM's office. And those facts would be about, it would be about the eligibility of a candidate to vote, and that would address the latter part of the question, which would, as it relates to foreign voters. And we would also incorporate the inking of the finger to indicate that someone would have already voted. We will highlight the substance that the ink was made of and how it's not easily removed. And we'll all tie this back to persons or the accusation of persons voting twice. And we also wanted to incorporate penalties or penalties as it relates to political parties paying persons to vote. So that was basically what we were working around.
I think this is like an excellent brainstorm because you're covering so much ground with the different counter messages that you've proposed. So first you want to stop, public panic, right? About, oh my gosh, the election is not going to have any integrity because people are going to be voting twice. And you talk about how, like, just, calmly, how do we make sure that people don't vote twice? So people get inked at the station and you can't take the ink off of your finger for a certain number of hours. B, this is how you identify yourself at a polling station, or you have to sign an affidavit. And then in terms of bribery, because that's the other kind of message, right, is that people are going to be bribed. Talking about the offenses for bribery is really good. Also giving a place for people to report. So if you hear about somebody being offered money, you report this to GCOM using the following avenues or something like that. But I really like that approach, to kind of break it down into what parts of the message need countering and then target those messages. Thank you. So group 1, this is the group that had the wrong election day. What were you planning?
Yes, so we proposed 3 counter messages. The first being would be creating a poster with the factual information that is shared by GCOM, which is the correct date. And we would post this on social media platforms, tagging GCOM to basically get more traction, more attention. And the second proposition was to share GCOM's posts because they would post information of the correct date. So we would share those posts as well. And the third idea was to create a video where we would share the factual information. And this would be shared on social media pages, but also the audio can be used to broadcast on radio stations for persons who might not be using social media platforms.
Great. I love the way that you've thought out how to disseminate these messages in a really mixed media approach. Having, a poster, but also having an audio campaign, a video campaign, because you're exactly right. Not everybody's on social media. Not everybody reads. And then there are people with visual disabilities where audio formats are a lot more accessible. So thinking about how do we reach as many people as possible with information that they can access and understand, and they don't have to dig for, right? Because if you have to dig to find the right information, a lot of people are just going to give up. So they're never going to get the correct information if it's not already coming up in spaces that they're existing, whether it's listening to the radio, watching TV, using social media. So this mixed media approach, I think, is a really important one to think about. I want to ask sort of the group a question. What do you think of this exercise? What are you worried about? What do you have questions about? What are you excited about? And just sort of take a little temperature check on how everyone's doing. And I'll just call in a couple of people too, to just get the conversation started. But do you feel like you have the information you need? Are you nervous? How are you feeling? Maybe Devendra, maybe we'll start with you. Devendra, can you unmute? Maybe Devendra's having connection issues. Maybe Lennox? Lennox, can you unmute and let us know how you feel about moving forward?
For me, it's a new experience, but I'm actually willing and excited to do it.
Good. We like excitement. I'm glad. Francine, how are you feeling?
Okay, so for me, individually, I have never voted, so this gives more clarity for me as a person, and I think I gain more knowledge from this stream, and I would like to thank you all. So it is very informative. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being a volunteer and doing the important stuff moving forward. Glad to hear this has been helpful. Angelita, how are you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling very confident about it. I like to engage on social media. I like to use social media, so it would be extremely fun to do.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. We talk about a lot of serious issues because it is important stuff, but social media and these communications campaigns can also be fun and exciting and, a good engaging way to do a good thing. Nelicia, how are you feeling?
I'm kind of excited to see the outcome of this project and everyone's idea and how we'll come together. Feeling okay.
Good. Oh, and Devendra wrote in the chat, he's excited to start this investigation. It'll be his first investigation on local government and first time voting. Lots of really exciting firsts, Devendra. Shondell, how are you doing?
I'm good, and I'm quite interested in this, and it's good that I am hearing a lot of good feedbacks from persons here because as a journalist, I can know what type of content person would like during this time local government elections.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's great that you're playing such an important role in the election process as a journalist. I mean, we are incredibly indebted to the media in so many ways to keep us on the right path and informed. So we're glad you're here. Sita, how are you feeling?
Hi, yes. Yes, I think I'd have to echo the sentiments of the participants who spoke before. Of course, I'm grateful for the new information because a lot of the things that I learned today I did not know before. So I'm happy about that. And also, I am eager to be a part of this positive movement. So that's my take on it.
Thank you. I'm glad to see you're enthusiastic about being a part of this. And Parmeshwar, sorry if I said your name wrong, says that I feel confident and I'm excited to learn more about local government elections. Excellent. Trevor.
Hi, I was just actually typing my response, but I'm eager to start and I am more eager and I'm grateful for the opportunity because the task ahead will our task rather as a group or a team would definitely influence the electoral process and how people see it and how young people see it most importantly. So I'm definitely eager to get started.
Excellent. That's great. I know I haven't gotten everyone, but I haven't been going in order. Malika, is that how you pronounce your name? Melissa? Oh, I am confident and excited to start. This session was very informative. Great. And then Francine, have we heard from you yet?
Yes, I did. You did.
Okay. I think we got everybody, right? So I will turn it back over to you, Rosemary.
All right. Thanks so much, Meredith, the IFS team. Thank you so much to the volunteers. I know today is Saturday, and I really do appreciate you guys being punctual and being so willing to do this. For many of you, I know it's the first time you're entering into this world of elections. Where we talk a lot about elections and your right to vote and things like that. So we definitely hope that you will stay on. You never know, we might even have you guys as additional volunteers for a Vote to Ed campaign, because we are currently doing that. So I hope that we still, can be able to tap into this pool of individuals even after this project is over and so on. So thank you very much. Before I close off, is there any other final question that you didn't get to ask that you just remembered? Go ahead and ask. If not, then we'll close off today's session. And if you have any questions, again, remember the group is there. Post, you can give me a call, shoot me a message, and we'll definitely keep in contact with you and support you throughout this process. So 5 seconds. Any questions? All right, no questions at this time. Good. All right, then we'll have a great rest of the afternoon, everyone, and do enjoy your Saturday. Meredith and Daniel, thank you guys so much. GCOPD, Ganesh, Alana, and Arifa, thank you guys.
Thank you. Have a good Saturday,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
All right, bye everyone.
Nice meeting
Bye.
everyone.